learn through that, and it'll be fine. So the training wheels went on, and I got to ride it for a little while. And then eventually my dad said, you know what, enough is enough. We're going to teach you to ride this bike. So my dad takes the training wheels off, and weeks go by. I'm trying to learn to ride this bike. I'm falling in the grass, I'm falling on the concrete. He's trying every little situation that he can try. He's like pushing me and then not telling me when he lets go, and I immediately drop to the ground. He's like pushing me down this hill, and I end up like in a dumpster at the bottom of the hill. Like everything that he can try, and I'm just not learning to ride this bike. Weeks go by, and he finally gets frustrated, and he says, "Okay, well, I'll take care of this bike for a little while until you can learn how to ride the bike." So he goes out with his friends, and he goes, and since there's not a 4-year-old kid with him, he decides, you know what, we can go a little bit more on the advanced tracks. We can tread a little bit more dangerously. So he goes onto this huge bridge, and he's goofing off, and he's just hanging around and riding this bike with his friends. And he goes down this hill, this massive bridge, just as fast as he can, and hits a rock on the bottom. He falls, and he breaks his collarbone. After that, my father had to take 4 weeks off of work. He had a construction job working on the Staples Center, which is where the Lakers and Clippers play today. But the problem was, by the end of his 4 weeks, the Staples Center was done. He lost his job. That kind of sent him into a little bit of a depression, and he turned to drugs after that. He turned to marijuana, he turned to cocaine, he turned to methamphetamine. From that, he spent all of our money on that. We didn't have money to pay the utilities. We didn't have money to pay rent, and we were eventually kicked out of our apartment. My mom was kind of influenced by him and decided that she would try the drugs as well, and became addicted. And we would bounce around from hotel to hotel, from friend's house to friend's house, from relative's house to relative's house, until finally we had nowhere left to turn. My mom would go to jail for like a minor possession charge, and my dad would take care of me. And my dad would go to jail after my mom got out for the same old thing. It was just kind of this back and forth. I was being raised by my mom while my dad was in jail. I was being raised by my dad while my mom was in jail. Until one day, the inevitable happened, and they both got arrested at the same time. I went into foster care with some old family friends of ours. My mom went to jail, and my dad went to prison for a robbery charge for 3 years. And while I went into this foster care, my foster mom, Yvonne, she told my mom that she was willing to relinquish all control of me and to give me back as soon as she had gone through drug rehab and as soon as she had gotten away from my dad. So that's exactly what she did. She went through drug rehab. She got away from my dad. She moved to Arkansas. She moved to way the other side of the country and got married and all of these things. I had this bitterness about me because I couldn't understand how my dad could choose these substances, how my mom could choose these substances over me, over providing for me, over providing a roof over our head and providing food for us to eat. We would walk around and we would try and find friends' houses that would be willing to let us stay in. And when we didn't have anywhere to go, we would just keep walking. We would just keep riding the bus. I remember vividly, there was one particular instance where I had gone 2 days without food, and I was just walking. And eventually I just collapsed. I was exhausted, and I just started crying. I was hungry. We didn't have anywhere to go. My parents didn't have any money for food because they had spent it all on meth. And I just remember sitting in Arkansas in this new family, being provided for, and just mulling over this and being bitter, and just being bitter. Because I didn't understand that my suffering was producing a glory that was heavy and eternal compared to my light and momentary suffering. I got saved at a church, an Assembly of God church in Hampton when I was about 10 years old. And it was at that point that I forgave my father. It was at that point that I forgave my mother. And I forgave God. Or I realized that God didn't have any reason to be sorry. And from there, everything was good. Everything was fine. Up until I was about 15 years old. My mom goes in for a routine knee surgery. She messed it up doing something at work. And she was actually going to get the joint replaced. And I was going to stay at my friend's house for 2 days while she got the knee surgery and kind of recuperated from that. While I was at my friend's house, I got a phone call that things were a little bit more complicated than that. It turns out that my mom wasn't getting enough oxygen into her lungs. She wasn't getting enough oxygen into her body, and therefore into her brain. And that they were going to have to go in and figure out what's going on with her lungs. Well, 40 years of smoking had finally caught up with her, and she had a buildup of plaque in her lungs to where she couldn't get the proper amount of air in. So 2 days turned into 2 weeks, and that began a process of 4 lung surgeries and countless times in the hospital, weeks of recovery, and tens of thousands of dollars in hospital bills. And here I am trying to finish high school and trying to make sure that my mom's staying okay, she's staying afloat. During that time, she's in a great deal of pain, and so they prescribed for her some pretty hefty pain medications. It doesn't take too long for her to begin abusing those, and before too long we become aware of it, and we decide that we're going to babysit her in shifts. My stepdad, would take care of her as long as he was home from work until it was time for him to go to bed. I would come home from school and I would go directly to sleep. At about 11 p.m. I would wake up and I would watch the pill cabinet to make sure that my mom wasn't digging into it. I remember thinking, I'm a Christian, like I'm a child of God. Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? I didn't realize that my suffering was well worth the investment and that it was producing an eternal and heavy glory. And a glory that I would even be able to see in my lifetime. Toward the end of my high school career, I had had enough, and I just didn't want to be a part of that anymore. I wanted to get as far away from that as possible. So I moved, and I decided to go to college in the northeast corner of Arkansas, as far away from my family as I could find. And it was at that college that I learned about ministry. It was at that college that I learned about myself. It was at that college that I developed as a person, that I developed as a Christian, and that I developed as a minister. It was at that college that I met Becca. And it was at that college that I discovered my calling. I didn't realize what was going on. But looking back on it now, I can trace back. A little 4-year-old kid can't learn to ride a bicycle. And because of that, I'm here today. Amen. I'm telling you that you may not understand why your suffering is the way that it is, and why you're going through what you're going through. But God's ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. I'm going to ask Bryce to come up, and we're going to go through a time of invitation. You may be here, and you might not be going through any sort of suffering. You might not be going through any sort of discomfort. You may be content in the circumstances that you're in. And if that's you, then I congratulate you. Because I've been trying to get there for years, and I'm a lot closer than I was, but I'm still working on it. But maybe you're here today, you're thinking, I just don't understand why God is letting me go through this. I don't understand why God is allowing these bad things to happen to good people. I'm a Christian, I'm a child of God. Why am I not being protected by this? Maybe you understand in your head that your suffering is light and momentary compared to the glory of eternity. But maybe it's just not reaching through to your heart. Maybe it's just not connecting to you. I just want to open up these altars, and if there's anything that you
you're going through that you just want to lay down on the table and to just say, God, like, just grant me a peace, just grant me an understanding about this. I know that your ways are higher than my ways. I know that your thoughts are higher than my thoughts. And I know that my suffering is producing a glory that will be experienced for eternity. But I just need comfort now. I just need to feel your presence now. I'm going to pray for us, and then Bryce is going to play for a couple more minutes, and we'll dismiss. So let's pray together. Father, we come before you today, just thankful and humble that your ways are higher than our ways and that your thoughts are higher than our thoughts. God, as we come before you, we have some things that we don't quite understand. We know that we don't have to understand them, but we just want comfort from you. We want to feel your presence, and we want you to remind us that you're there. God, we know that our suffering is momentary and that our glory is eternal. We come before you today seeking renewal. We come before you seeking to be renewed by your Spirit, seeking to be filled up once again. God, we understand our need, we understand our desperation without you, that we're just lost and just idly floating around without your direction, without your renewal. God, renew our minds, renew our hearts, renew our faith and our hope, renew our joy. Forgive us where we fall short. In your Son's name. These benches are open.